Hello everyone and welcome back to another video in my A380 tutorial series, and in this one we're going to be doing the taxi to cruise. And if you did miss the previous tutorial on how we got from cold and dark to the taxi, do check that one out if you need to. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. Alright, so welcome back into the cockpit. You left us right at this position. And I did make an oopsie in the previous tutorial. I forgot to mention that you need to have your flight director on, which is this button here. It is here in this plane, not over here, as in the Airbus A320. A380 it's here, above the autopilot and autothrust. You must have that on to ensure that your speeds and your headings can be pre-selected by the aircraft's automated technology. So yeah. Climb and nav should be in blue there if that is all good, and these should just be lines if it's going in manage mode and you're not controlling the speed or the heading. I've selected an altitude, as you always should. If you do want to pre-select speed and headings due to ATC restrictions maybe, you can do that as well by pulling the stick out, or in other words pressing it down. But I'm going to have it managed, so I'm going to push it in. So we're ready for the taxi now. We did our checklist in the previous series, so we're just going to put the engine start into the norm position. We have our taxi lights on, we have our seatbelt signs on, everything is set up, so we can get going. So at this point we can just get taxiing. So let's go. Take off, a little bit of power to get going. That'll do. Let's go. Only need a little bit of power to get going and then put them to idle, otherwise you'd be going way too fast. So I'm just going to taxi the aircraft to the gate at this point. Nice easy taxi to 23 left in the A380 because of where the gate is at Manchester. So we're going to be taxiing. I'm not going to be changing anything in the aircraft, so I'll meet you back when we're at the runway. Alright, so welcome back. We are now at the runway hold point, and we're going to now get our lights on for takeoff and departure. So landing lights can be on, runway turnoffs can go on, nose lights can go to takeoff mode now, strobe lights can go on, and yeah. You would use your logos as well, but those don't work in the current state of the aircraft. So yeah, that's all there is to it at this point. We're just going to head over to the runway now. So let's get lined up with the runway. Before we take off, we will check our takeoff config to ensure that nothing is missing for the departure. And at this point, we could enable the weather radar on our PFD screens. And at this point I don't need the zoom, so I'm just going to wrap back to regular selection of the flight plan. And at this point really we're just lining up. You can line up anywhere really, it's up to you. I'm going to stop here though. Parking brake on, and I'm going to check the takeoff config, which you can do by clicking the button right here, just under the engines, takeoff config, click it once, and if that takeoff config normal notification comes up and it's in green, you know that you've got everything set up for the departure. So we are ready. So at this point we're going to get the chrono on, and we're going to get going. So 50% even. 50%. Parking brake off. Engine stable. Flex set. Man flex SRS. Auto thrust blue. Slight wind. Yeah, I'm going to use a bit of left rudder. V1, rotate, positive rate of climb, gear up, nav has been engaged. Don't need a serious climb. Through S speed, flaps up. Slight left turn as we cross the MCT VOR. Lever climb, thrust climb. Through 2000 feet, autopilot 1 can be engaged. Alright, so that was the departure, very quick, but to break it down, essentially what we did, we put the thrusts to 50%, take the parking brake off, make sure that the engines are stable, then we would set the thrust to flex or toga, depending on which setting you needed for the departure, which will be noted in the performance page. Of course, the performance takeoff page there. Of course, at this point we're in the climb phase of the performance, and essentially you would then go, and then once you reach V1 you would slightly lift the plane up by pushing the stick back a bit. You'd climb the aircraft up. Auto thrust should be in blue at the right hand side of the screen here. It should be auto thrust blue here, and then you would just simply rotate the plane up, keep it climbing, and through 2000 feet you can get the autopilot on, or you can manually fly the plane for as long as you like. It doesn't really matter, as long as you comply to the restrictions and constraints. And then essentially you will have lever climb show up here, and it'll flash where speed is now. Lever climb will come up there. You'd then put the throttles to climb mode, which is 1 step back from flex and 2 step backs from toga on the TCA throttle quadrant. You'd then through S speed on the speedometer here, you would then select up, so that means no flaps at all, and then at that point you'd just be climbing up, and then you can put the spoilers down again, so unarm the spoilers by pressing them down like so, and that is it. You're just in the climb phase at that point. So we've gotten through the restriction of 5,000 feet at Listo, so we can climb up right to our cruising altitude at this point, or ATC altitudes, depending on what you're flying with. And I'm going to engage that. I'm going to have it in managed mode, so the plane manages the rate of climb and the speed. To do that I press up, and then if I wanted to manually control the rate of climb, I'd press down. Or in other words, you'd push it in to have managed mode, or pull it to the selecting mode, so you want to control the rate of climb or rate of descent. So at this point we're through transition, so we can set standard barometric pressure by pushing the knob out. Yeah, it does it on both for one, remember. And we have a pretty steep climb here, so if you do end up having a steep climb, you can manually control it, of course, but seeing as it's sorted itself out, I'm not going to mess with it. But if that's in the orange or it's in red, then you really need to control that, so do not let it manage if it is going to the orange or red. If it's in the green, it's fine, but if it's any higher, yeah, it's going into the orange. It's not very stable, so I'm going to manage the rate of climb like so. I'm going to have 4,500 foot per minute. I'm going to pull it because I want to manage it. I'm gonna have it at 4,500 foot per minute because it's not too it's not too stressed, but it's also quick. Remember, the Airbus A380 is used to steep climb rates, so yeah, compared to the A320, you can have a lot steeper climb rate in this aircraft. So at this point, we're just climbing up to the cruising altitude. Through 10,000 feet, we can get our lights off. So landing lights, runway turn-offs, wing lights, nose lights, strobe lights, beacon lights can all come off. And the only lights we need on is nav lights. And then seatbelt signs could come off if it's in good conditions and no turbulence is expected. That's when you can turn the seatbelt signs off. Smoking lights have to stay on. You may be thinking about anti-ice at this point, down here. If any of these temperatures are below -10 degrees, you will need to put the engine anti-ices on. If they are above -10 degrees, then you don't have to worry about it. And that is shown by these temperatures here in degrees centigrade, right here. And as you can see, we're all good, although we may have to do it in a minute because there's -8 degrees, -9 degrees. We're definitely going to have to put anti-ices on at some point, I think. Yeah, we're going to put anti-ices on because we are on -10 degrees and increasing, so we need anti-ices on. So these are these buttons, engine anti-ices. All 4 of these are engine anti-ices, and you've also got your wing anti-ice. See you back when we are in the cruise. See you then. Alright, so a quick note: if you are manually controlling your rate of climb, if your speed is dropping quite drastically, just decrease the rate of climb using the V-speed button here, and that should solve your problems. And of course, if you feel like you've got more climb that you can use, you could use that, depending on how fast you want to climb up, really. But that is a good note. As you can see, my speed isn't exactly where it wants to be, where the pink 260 knots is. That's where the plane wants to be, but because I'm climbing, it can't reach me there. But seeing as I'm not at an unrealistic climb rate, it doesn't matter. Once we're in the cruise, it'll get that speed back up for you. No worries. But of course, if ATC want you at a strict speed, if you're on BATSIM or something, then you will have to comply with those restrictions and sort that out. So you may have to reduce your rate of climb or increase it, whichever is needed. Alright, so we're at our cruising altitude of 41,000 feet. And as you can see, the speed has now gone back to the yellow, to the pink constraint or managed mode. That is the optimal speed the plane thinks we should be at, and we have reached it now. As you saw, we didn't reach it when we were climbing, but now we have reached our bit of climb. We have of course got that speed back. If you would like to go a bit faster, you can go faster by selecting the speed here and selecting faster. Of course, I'm not going to, but you can if you desire, or ATC tells you to. There isn't much to do in cruise. There's nothing you need to do as such, but you know, this could be a time for you to just mess around with the aircraft. Maybe see what all these buttons are, see what they do. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. I hope to see you in the next tutorial, which will be the descent, approach and landing. Hopefully it's been useful to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.